Thank you, Dave. And for anybody who doesn't recognize me, I've been on a few of these sessions. My name is Dave Marsh. I'm actually one of the original developers of Matrix. So I've been with the company since the beginning, about 20 years. So you're all in very, very good hands. What I'm going to do today is I'm just going to show you some recent updates to the system, and actually we'll have a special little bonus for you at the end. We're going to cover something that hasn't yet seen by, well, not only your membership, but also most memberships out there. It's a brand new feature that we're introducing. So stick around to the end, and I'm going to take you through something special. What we're going to do first is we're going to start with the Matrix dashboard. Now, what you've probably noticed is that over the last several months, we've really made a focus on updating Matrix to more responsive design. So we're taking all the popular features that, of course, that you're used to in I call the legacy Matrix or the classic Matrix, and we're updating them to the responsive design. So essentially, they're a lot more efficient on your mobile devices for your tablets or any of your smartphone devices. So that all starts with the dashboard. So just before we get into the dashboard, I just wanted to point out just underneath the utility menu here, this is on the top right-hand corner. If you just select your name, you're going to see a mode option. So as I mentioned a few moments ago, we still have the classic mode available. So you may not even see the new responsive mode. If you don't see it, what you're going to want to do is just come over to the utility menu here and select where it says classic mode, and you can toggle that on or off. And I'll just toggle it on for a second just to show you that this is what some of you may see. So this is the old traditional classic mode of the dashboard. And again, just by toggling this off, we see the new responsive mode. So this is a mode that you're probably going to want to use. This actually cascades through other pages in Matrix as well. We're not going to go through them all, but I'll just quickly point some of them out here. Like your sent emails, your auto email pages here. We've updated those as well. I can actually just show you what that looks like. So you can see here, if you're familiar with the classic mode, this is radically different than those modes as well. So all the features and the functionality that you're probably used to on those pages are still there. It's just now, again, it's been updated to a responsive design. So we're going to go back to the dashboard just really quickly. And as I just mentioned a few moments ago, all the functionality that you're used to in the classic version of the dashboard is still available here as well. So you're going to see all of your, well, I don't really call them widgets anymore. They're more referred to as panels now. All the same panels are there, but the way to interact with them is a little bit different. You'll notice up here on the right-hand side, we've got something called a Edit Dashboard button. And traditionally, in the classic version, what we would have to do is select at the time a widget to move it around into a specific location. Here, we have an Edit Dashboard button. You just select that, and of course, these are all your available panels on the new dashboard. And you can see here, I can toggle these off or on accordingly. So let's say, for example, I don't want to see my market watch anymore. I can just toggle that off, and of course it disappears. I can also change the order. So let's say, for example, my listings is over here at the end. If I'd like to maybe move that a little bit closer towards the beginning, I can just pull that up. Maybe right here. And you can see now it's changed positions. So I have a lot of flexibility, same way that I had with the classic version. Everything's just a little bit more neat and tidy now, a little bit more efficient and tucked away. One thing I did want to mention as well, the news and alerts, just like in the classic version, that's not customizable. So you can't actually change the location of that. You can see that's locked down. Now, if at any time you log into Matrix and you don't see a news and alerts, that's because we removed it if there are no news and alerts available. So again, you can see here, we clearly have some news and alerts in this panel, but if it was empty, then of course we don't want to show just an empty panel. So that's going to disappear. So again, if you don't see it one day, that's the reason why, just because the news and alerts panel is empty, but it will reappear once news and alerts populate the page again. In addition to that, you'll see there's a little chevron here. If I select that chevron, a little panel opens up, and this is what we call a timeline drawer or panel. So what this will do is this will essentially is an amalgamation of all of your timeline activity for your clients. So you're probably used to, and if you're not here, let me just go into, let's go into maybe Dwayne here. So you can see in the specific client's contact page, we have a recent activity area. So of course, this is all the recent activity that your client engaged in while they're in One Home recently. So what we've done is we've essentially amalgamated all of your client's activity into one timeline panel here. So when you log into Matrix, if you want to see a collection of all of your client's activity in one central location, you don't have to go through each individual client for that. As I just showed you a few moments ago, it's all now on your dashboard. So again, just open up the chevron and you're going to see all of that client activity here. Now, of course, you can get some additional information about each of these little cards. All I have to do is select to open. In this case, maybe I want to take a look at that particular photo selection, and I can go through that property's photos. I can see here that in this case, Sue has created a brand new save search, custom save search in One Home. She's visited her portal a couple of times. Dwayne down here, of course, same thing. He's added the property as a favorite. If I want to see a little bit more information on that property, of course, I can select that, and that will take me into some additional information. So again, we're not going to get into all of the specifics of the individual items on the timeline, but just click through and you'll be able to see, break those down into a little bit more detail. Now, as far as which activities actually show up in this timeline, I believe by default, you're going to see absolutely everything, but this can be a little bit overwhelming if you have a lot of clients. And of course, if your clients have a lot of activity. So again, you may be familiar, we're going to see this in a few moments here, if you're not familiar with it, but you may be familiar with all of the different activities that you can be notified. For example, when your client visits their portal for the first time, when they return to visit, if they mark a favorite or maybe discard properties, all of this activity, again, you can be notified of. So in this case, again, I may have a lot of clients that are really, really active in their portal, and I'm just absolutely overwhelmed by all the activity in this timeline. So what I can do is I can select the little settings icon, and that will allow me to really dictate which activities are visible in the timeline. So you can see, of course, I've got them all enabled here, and I'm going to keep them all enabled for now. And if you weren't familiar with what I was just referring to in the notifications or in the activity portal notification center, if you go into your utility menu and you go into settings, we have a specific setting here called portal notification settings. If I select that, now what we've done is we've added an additional column, and you'll recognize this column as the exact same settings area that I just showed you a few moments ago on the dashboard. So what we've done is we've essentially pulled all that functionality into the portal notification settings area. So you can see here, if my client visits their portal, saves a favorite, well, we're not going to have to necessarily go through all of these, but these are all the actions essentially that you can be notified of as an agent whenever your client executes any of these actions. And again, if you do want to be notified by email or SMS text message, you can mark those as well. But more specifically to the timeline, these can be configured from here, or as I just mentioned a few moments ago, they can also be configured from here. Both are the same, your choice. All right, so the next area that I want to show you is the search functionality. So we've essentially rebuilt search functionality from the ground up. Again, as I mentioned earlier, 20 years ago, when we first created the program, you get what you see here, and Matrix has not really changed a lot since then. So we built these essentially three tabbed searches. So we've got the criteria tab, we've got the map, and of course, we've got our results tab. So this worked at the time, of course, and over the course of many years, as things were added onto this, and of course as the system became more responsive in nature, we needed to update this as well. So that's what we've done with the 3-panel search, or as you see here, it's called the new search. But eventually, you may see this as 3-panel search because that's essentially what it is. And what that does is it essentially takes place of all of this functionality that we see here. So the criteria, the map, and the results. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select, and of course that brings us to our 3-panel search. And I'll break this down for you in a few different sections, starting with the criteria panel on the left-hand side here. So you'll notice here when I select or hover over top of my search, I have all the different property types to choose from. So what we've done is we've integrated that into the criteria panel. And if I want to do a specific search for any particular property type, all I have to do is select it from here. Now, of course, by default, I'm currently on single family, but of course I can change it to, let's say maybe I'm doing a commercial property search. And you can see now all of my available fields have changed, and we're going to get into the fields in a few moments here, but all of the available fields have changed. And of course, if I want to do maybe let's say a lot and land search, and you can see I have completely different fields to choose from as well for that property type. So we're going to go back to single family, and you can see here I have a lot fewer fields than I did on any of my other property types. And the reason for that is because I customized this. So let me jump back to single family just for a sec. Now, traditionally, in any of these forms that I wanted to do a search, these are the legacy search forms, you'll notice that you're kind of stuck with all of the fields that the board originally assigned at the beginning. Now, of course, we could add our own custom fields if we wanted to that form. But at the end of the day, I'm still kind of stuck with all of these fields because, again, when I do a search, my client or myself may not be interested in most of these fields that were here. Again, these are kind of locked in because, again, those are the fields that were initially chosen when we built the form. Now, you'll notice here, when I do a 3-panel search, I can actually choose my own fields. So essentially, I'm in control. So let's go back to maybe a commercial, just as an example. You can see here, all of these fields here were the initial fields that were added by the board. So again, I can go in and I can change those. And that's exactly what I did with my single family, because again, I'm not really interested in all of those fields that were initially suggested. So I went in and I just chose the fields that when I do a search are more relevant to me or to my clients. How did I do that? Well, I went into the little settings option right here. So I'm just going to select settings, and you can see here, these are all of the available fields that I have to choose from. And you can see here, I've already added, well, those 4 that you saw earlier. If I want to do another one, I can just, of course, I can just select any of these. I'm not going to keep that one. But if I want to do a search, let's say maybe for, I don't know, maybe fireplaces. Let's see if there's fireplaces, yes or no. And you can see it's now added it to my list of fields. Now, I can also change the location of these as well. So maybe I don't want the fireplace at the bottom. If I have a really long list of criteria that I want to use, maybe this is fireplace is something that I'm going to choose to use often. So I can move that maybe a little bit closer to the top. And you can see here that I've got a restore defaults option. If I get maybe just a little too out of control and I remove all of my initial defaults and I want to get them back, because again, I actually in retrospect, I actually preferred to use the defaults. I can always just restore the defaults, and that will get rid of my custom fields. But for now, I'm just going to keep my custom fields, save that, and you can see now it's added my fireplaces, and I can carry on and do my search. So let's actually do a quick little search here. So I'm going to do search for active properties, and let's do fireplaces. Let's say list prices, maybe $1 million to $2 million. And let's do 2+ bedrooms and maybe 3+. bathrooms, something like that. Now you can see as I do this, it automatically changes my results in both the map panel section and also in the single line section as well. So because space is very important to me, I'm going to show you a couple of other things, because again, you may have a smaller resolution monitor than I do. So space, again, just the real estate on your screen may be important to you. So I'm going to show you that. But before I do, I just wanted to mention really quickly before we remove this criteria section. If you have a lot of criteria, and this is again functionality that you had in the legacy search, but if you have a lot of criteria that you've added, and maybe it's criteria that you generally use often, maybe again, most of my searches are for active properties, maybe most of my searches have fireplaces included, whatever criteria that you typically use on a regular basis. Just to point out, you do have the option of saving this as well. So again, you don't have to enter in all of that criteria the next time that you want to do, in this case, a single family search. So again, just to show you that that is still available. So the next time I come in and do a single family search, I'm going to start off with this criteria. Now, again, I can change that if I'd like, but just so that you're aware, you can save it just like you did in the legacy search. Now, I also wanted to, again, bring your attention to the fact that if I do have a lot of information on my page, again, because we are fitting the criteria, the map, and the single line display all in one, I wanted to point out a few space saving options for you. One is if you want to maybe change the size of your header here, there's another little feature that we've recently added here that will reduce the size of your header. So if you just select these little arrows there, it'll cut that down in height. And you also have a text size option as well. So you can see here, select it 3 times. We go really tiny. And again, that allows you to get a lot more information on the page. Now, if you're someone who really enjoyed the single line display like we had in the legacy version, where the entire page was essentially just single line results, well, you can do the exact same thing here. And you can see here, that little arrow, select that. And now we've got a page full of your single line display. Just select it again, and we can essentially do the exact same thing for the map. So again, if you're just maybe a user who gravitated towards the full page map or the full page single line display, you still have that option. But personally speaking, I like the split screen. And again, you can manually change that as well. So if you want maybe a little bit less map and a little bit more single line. But I'm just going to go back up to the full height and full size for my text. All right, so a few of the things I want to show you specifically with the map. All of the functionality that you're used to in the legacy version is been applied to the 3-panel search as well. So that includes, let's say, for example, all of the map shapes. So again, if you want to, in this case, maybe draw like maybe a radius around that area. And of course, we can also draw shapes within shapes. We're not going to get into that level of detail for this demo again, because all that same functionality is still available from the legacy into this area as well. Let's say, for example, I wanted to maybe take a look at any of these properties in a little bit more detail. Now you see all of the single checkbox and the multiple checkbox controls over here. So again, if there's specific properties that I want to select, I can do it from here as well. Here's a really cool feature that we've added. If you want to take a look at any of these properties in a little bit more detail. Now, again, in the legacy version, you remember if I selected any of these properties, what would happen is you'd get this little postage sized thumbnail that that popped up, and then you would select that, and that would take you into the full essentially the full display for that particular property. With the 3-panel search, all you have to do is, well, select this one just as an example. Oops, that's not good. That's not good. Back here for a sec. All right, so let's grab just a few of these again. If I wanted to open up any of these individual properties, all I have to do is select. Oh, again, well, maybe that's not configured. But I'll show you in a different version, and hopefully the new version is configured here as well. Okay, so this is typically what would have happened, or should have happened anyway. When I interesting. Okay, well, that is clearly not cooperating. So you could kind of see what should be happening here is a little panel opens up on the right-hand side. So I'm sure David's taking notes in the background there to get that checked out. But that's essentially a preview. So when I select any of these, or when I select any of the map markers from inside of my map area, a little preview panel will open up. And essentially what this is going to show is well, a preview of that specific property that I just selected. So in this case, there's obviously no photo that's available for this property. We see that here, and some additional information for the property below that. You can also see it's got the MLS ID. So if I select that, it will open up in the full page display. And again, this isn't new, so we're not going to go over the details of this. I will mention though that this will eventually, so when you do select a MLS number either through the preview panel or through here, that actually does or will, just not in this particular version, that will open up inside of integrated with the 3-panel search. So it actually opens up in this area down here. So we're not having to go to a different tab for that information. Currently in this version, it's not opening up there, but it will actually open up inside of this area once that's been integrated. We also have the thumbnails available, so you can switch your display from single line display to the thumbnail display, and it essentially retains all of the same information that you see in the single line display, but just adds a photo to that as well. We also have the gallery display. So if you want to select the gallery, just get the individual tiles. Going back to the single line display, now just like we saw in the criteria, where I was able to go in and I was able to select the specific criteria that I wanted to display for my own personal use. And this is what I did for the single family. I'm able to do the exact same thing with the display. So let's say, for example, and again, this is the same functionality that we had back in the legacy, but just to show you that it's still included with the 3-panel search. If I go in and let's say, for example, you see here, this is a single family display. This is the default fields that the board chose to include in the default display. I can go in and I can change this. Maybe if I have a very specific client. So maybe the searches that I'm doing right now, my client's not interested in the number of stories or this finished square feet, or maybe any of this other, maybe bedrooms, of course he is, maybe the style. And we'll add fireplace again, because this is maybe an important field for my client. So when I do actually generate a printed report, or if I just want to maybe just show my client just over the shoulder some of the features that are included with the properties that he's interested in, again, fireplace is one of those. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this as a new custom display. And again, maybe this is for my client Dwayne. So I'm just going to call this Dwayne's display, something like that. Save as new, and you can see that now I have that option. So when I'm doing a search for Dwayne, I'm not interested in seeing all of the fields that the board chose, because again, some of those may not be relevant to me or to my client. So I can create my client's own custom display. And then when I'm doing a search for them, I can just toggle over to that display and see all of the fields that are relevant to, in this case, Dwayne. Now, I also wanted to cover well, we call them action buttons now. You're probably used to them being referred to as as the button bar earlier. So again, in the legacy version of Matrix, we had the button bar that stretched across the bottom of the screen. So when I selected any properties and I wanted to do something with those specific properties, I would generally go down to the button bar, and that's where the functionality would live. So we have those same functionalities included in the 3-panel search. I've just selected a handful of properties here. And again, without a button bar, we have what are called action buttons. So these are the quick action buttons here. So these are the more commonly used ones. So if I want to print those 3 selected properties, for example, I could print those from the header. The save. So you can see here now we actually toggled one of the save options from the button bar, and we've brought it over to a different location. So you're probably used to seeing the auto email. So save new auto email, that was in the button bar. So it's no longer in the save here. Now it's just save as a new search and save as a new speed bar shortcut. Again, you're probably familiar with those features. What we've done with the auto email is we brought it over to where it really belongs, in the send. So now when I'm able to select any of my properties, I can either email them or I can auto email them as well. Then of course the auto email would be for everything, but of course I have at this point 727 matches. That's way too many to auto email out. So that's why we see it disabled here. So I'm going to show you actually here. I'll show you now, just while we're here. Let's take maybe just a quick little sample. Get this down to a respectable amount. Okay, so that's good. 152 matches. Now we'll have our auto email enabled. And you can see here all the same functionality that you used to in the legacy auto email, but it's now just been integrated with the 3-panel search. So we've got, of course, how we send it up to our client. Let's say maybe just to my client Dwayne here. And I don't know, maybe check these out. Dwayne, something like that. And of course, we've got our welcome message, our recurring message, and these are all of the options, again, that you're familiar with. So if I wanted to send this as a concierge auto email or not, I have all my schedule frequency options here. So we'll send it as a concierge, go through approvals, and we'll just approve all those. Moving on to the CMA, of course, that will just take us to the CMA feature, so no need to get into that. And my additional functionality is found underneath that the ellipses tool here. So just go through, and again, you're probably familiar with most of these. I'm going to show you the driving directions because we've added a new feature here. So we should probably select some properties to drive to. So here, let's say, just as an example, I want to check out these 3 properties. So again, we've integrated the driving directions in with the 3-panel search. But the main thing I wanted to show you is we now have a send to Google Maps option. Now, the issue with the driving directions in the legacy version was, I mean, it was great. You could essentially generate driving directions and print them out. But there's really no way to send that to your mobile device. So what we've done is we've integrated Google Maps in with this. So now what I've done is I've selected these 3 specific properties. And again, I still have that same email functionality that I had earlier. But now what I can do is if I do have a Google account, I can just send to Google Maps. And you can see here, it opens up Google Maps, and more specifically, send directions to, and this is in my case, my own personal mobile device. So if I selected that right now, you may or may not hear my phone go off, but that's essentially transferring this to my mobile device. So essentially, if I do have a Google account, I can open it up in my mobile device and use that to navigate while I'm actually on the road. Below that, again, all of the same functionality they're probably used to. The statistics, those are the single line statistics. Well, might as well show you while I'm here. And the export option, again, if you'd like to export those properties out in a variety of different CSV files, for example. Now, carts is a little bit different. Again, it's the same functionality that you're used to in the legacy version, but we set it up a little bit different. So now, for example, you can see I've got no carts that are available, but if I do want to add those 3 properties to a specific client's cart, well, we'll just create one really quick here. We'll call this maybe Dwayne's cart and search for my client, Dwayne. And that's it. So you can see how easy it is. Definitely a lot more efficient than in the legacy version. That's essentially what we've been trying to do, is just streamline everything. So not only that it's responsive, but also, again, more efficient. And again, these are most of these are just third-party integrations, so we're not going to go through those. The last one I want to show you is switch to Classic. If for any reason you want to do something, just again because you're more familiar with it or more comfortable just during this transition, doing it in the legacy version, if you've already built your search in 3-panel, and again, you don't want to have to go through, especially if you've done something like this and generated a very, very, very specific location on the map. Again, you really don't want to have to go through and regenerate that in the legacy version of the search. Just switch to Classic, and that will take you into the Classic mode. And you can see here, you've got, well, in this case, my 3 selected properties, and I've got my map generated. And of course, more importantly, possibly to you, is I've got my functionality in the button bar. So again, if it is a workflow thing and you're just more comfortable using the legacy for now, just while you get up and running in the 3-panel search, feel free to switch back and forth to the Classic version. All right, so that's really all I wanted to cover for the matrix side of it. We're going to open up questions for that at the end, but before I do that, I do want to show you that we've got another option. I did say if you stick around just to the end here, I'm going to show you a brand new feature that we're coming out with called the Branding Center. Now, before I get into it, I want to show you just really, really, really quickly, just again, if you're not as familiar, just going to go in the settings section. And you may be familiar with most of these settings here. And this is where you'd come in and add your own information, for example, for emails and for your One Home avatar, your CMA cover sheet, all of this information that you would typically add over here, and you're currently adding over here, is going to cascade over into, in this case, into your client's One Home portal. So there are a couple different places, or a few different places that you can upload your images. Again, just over the years, over the last 20 years or so, as we've added new features to the Matrix system, we've tacked a lot of these features on just to satisfy requirements or new requests. And sometimes, again, just because we're building on it, it's not necessarily how it was originally designed. So you can see here that we've got a few different places that we can add, for example, our photo. We've got our One Home tab. We've got our CMA cover sheet. We've got our header and footer section. We could add it. So that, again, it's sort of spread out through different places in Matrix. So what we've tried to do with the Branding Center is give one central area where you can go to and add all of your essential branding for your clients. Now, not only for One Home clients, but also MLS Touch clients are impacted as well. So MLS Touch / MLS client and One Home, and of course, all of the email notifications that your client will see as they come through into their notification email. So that's what we've tried to do, is take all of this, all of these areas here that you currently have, and condense it into one center called the Branding Center. So that's what we see here. So there's a couple different ways to get to the Branding Center. Here, I'll show you just really quickly. One of them is from here. Now, again, you're not going to see that here yet, but you'll see a little option here that says Branding Center. You'll also see eventually another tile here called branding center. So there's a couple different methods. And the third one is, again, probably more familiar to you, is the agent portal. So when you do open up your agent portal, you'll have, again, another little utility menu up here. If you select that, now clearly I'm not Marie, I'm just using a test account here, but normally this would have your name here, and you'll see a little option here that says manage branding. So you'll select that, and that will open up the branding center, which is what we see here. So this will be your new branding center. And as I mentioned earlier, this is a one central location. So you're not going to multiple different places. Again, if you are familiar with MLS Touch, it's the exact same thing there. You have a separate area. It's called the More option. It's called Brand and Share in the More option. This is where you would set your branding for your MLS clients. So if, let's say, for example, you work for Remax, and you want all of your clients, when they log into MLS Client, to see your Remax logo, that's something, again, that you would have to do through the brand and share in your MLS Touch app. So again, we've solved all that by creating one central location here called the Branding Center. And you can see here by default, this is what essentially it looks like for my Matrix email, for MLS Client, and for One Home. This is what they're going to see for their default if you don't choose to add any type of branding. Now, as I mentioned in the profile section here, this is where you're going to add all of your personal branding. So you can have your photo, you can have your first name, last name, essentially all of that information that you would typically add back inside of Matrix in your One Home tab, you can add here. But again, the benefit here is it cascades to all of your applications. So we're going to integrate that functionality in with MLS Touch, One Home, and of course your email notifications. As I mentioned before, your brand starts out by default. If you currently in your roster have a specific office, like I do in this case, let's say, for example, Century 21, then it will automatically load that. So the first time that you go to your branding center, when you open it up, it's not going to have your unbranded, because again, you already belong to an office and that's been shared through the roster. That's going to load up that branding automatically. Now, of course, it has to be part of our preset brandings. So if your office isn't actually in the presets, then of course you're not going to see that. But if it is part of the presets, and those are some of the typical brokerages that you're probably familiar with, those are included in our presets, you'll automatically see that here. Now, if it's not automatically loaded, maybe you are part of an office, but it's just not mentioned in the roster, then you can do a search for it here. So let's say, for example, I'll use Remax again. You can see now when I select Remax, it's automatically selected for me here as part of my branding. So again, I can go through, this is what my email notifications will look like when they're sent out. This is what my client's MLS Client app will look like. So when they go in from in MLS Client, when I send them essentially properties from MLS Touch, this is what they'll see with my logo. And again, I didn't have to change this back in MLS Touch. It's automatically done. Same thing when they log into One Home, they're going to see my branding there. Now, normally I would have had to change this in a few different locations. I just have to change this once in the branding center. And of course, if it's not available down here, for in this case Remax is, but if my office is not available, I can add my own. So in this case, I believe I have one here. So here's my logo for my own custom one. Of course, what I want to do is I just want to center that here so it's available. And you can see what it's done is it's automatically picked up the color scheme from my logo. Now, I don't have to use that, but the step as far as actually going through and selecting my branded colors has already been essentially done for me. So again, you don't have to keep it, but it's just taking the colors off of the logo that I uploaded. Now, if I want, I can change this, or I can actually switch them as well. So maybe I want to make this, I guess that's kind of a brown color. If I want to make that my secondary color instead, I can switch that over. And again, saves me from having to go in and manually try to find what color that is. But of course, I can go in and I can change this. So let's say, for example, maybe, I don't know, maybe I prefer red, something like that. And you can see here, it's now automatically changed it in my previews as well. And then of course, once I've done that, I'm just going to save and activate it. And now it's been saved. So again, going forward, I don't have to change this in my client's MLS client app. I don't have to change this in my client's One Home app, and I don't have to change this for my client's email notifications. It's all been done from one central location. And of course, if I want to maybe get rid of that, maybe I've changed offices, I can remove it and go back to my unbranded for now. So again, high level, just wanted to show you really quickly what's coming down the pipeline. What I'd like to do now is just open it up for any questions that you guys might have. David?